Welcome to a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda.
Good morning. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning and welcome to the April 22nd meeting of the Lorain County Board of Commissioners. Mrs. Beitelman is not here. She's in Columbus today, so I have a proverb for this morning. It's Proverb 13:20-23. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Trouble chases sinners while blessings reward the righteous. Good people leave an inheritance to their grandchildren, but the sinner's wealth passes to the godly. A poor person's farm may produce much food, but injustice sweeps it all away. Amen. And Commissioner Kalo has our dog from the kennel this morning.
Come here. Come here. Come on, we need to get a good picture of you. Come on, sit down a minute. No, let's turn you this way. Hal needs to get a good picture of you, he said. I guess you don't want to sit, huh? Come on, sit down.
That's good.
Come
He's
on.
excited.
Come on. Come on. Sit down a minute. Here, hey, you were listening before. Come on, sit down. Nope, go see Tim. Come here. Come on, we need a good picture of you. You're a beautiful dog. Our featured dog this week is about a 5-year-old German Shepherd Lab mix. Absolutely wonderful. He was an owner turn-in. He was found at Tower Boulevard and Oberlin Avenue in Lorain. He's neutered already. He's got a great personality. He really likes Tim, our dog warden. And he'll be available for adoption actually April 23rd. So please stop by. We've only got 22 dogs in. We'd love to clear that out this weekend.
Bonded with you already, Tim. My clerk just passed over Pet Supplies Plus is having a National Pet ID Week from till the 25th of this month. In honor of National Pet ID Week, we are offering free microchipping. Make a purchase of $10 or more between now and April 25th, and you will receive a voucher for a free microchip. So if you're interested, that would be at Pet Supplies Plus. Madam Clerk?
We have a presentation by the Environmental Crime Unit, Solid Waste.
Mr. Bailey?
Great to talk to you today. Keith Bailey, Solid Waste District Director, and I got Bill and Greg with me, our Environmental Crimes Unit, about the problems we face in the field and some of the educational activities we're doing to prepare people so they understand our tire laws and our new scrap metal initiative that's just came into law this year, to give you kind of insight what we're up to. All right. Currently, the district has 3 trailers for tires, one in Grafton, one in Lorain, and of course, a collection center. Over the last 18 months, we've experienced increased activity from what we believe tire shops coming to us and dropping off tires illegally. When you have your tires changed off your vehicle, you pay a fee, and that's for the disposal at scrap tire. Well, it's not happening. They're getting people to dump them, and that's one of the things we've got to get under control. Currently, let's see, it's not going. There we go. Got it. There's our 3 trailers and what we've got so far. Collection center, we did 12 trailers this last year, 113 ton. You can see there we did 369 ton of tires last year. The ag tires in there and Grafton and Lorain's trailers. We'll talk a little bit about the problems we're having there. And Mr. Cortez and I have been working with the city of Lorain, our partner, and we'll be working with Grafton Township to solve some of the problems there we have. You can see clearly the markings on these tires. The EPA will only allow you to haul 10 tires per vehicle. That's a state law. That's revised code. That's not something we are doing. We've seen a steady increase of tire shops dropping off at our trailers, which is illegal. And you can see some of the markings. When you see markings like this on a tire, you know they came from a tire shop, not from Joe Public, all right? Some of the ones we're seeing dumped at the Lorain trailer. I think we'll turn it over now to Bill.
Good morning.
Morning.
What I'm going to talk about a little bit is the illegal tire dumping issues we're having. The type of people that are abusing the program, small tire dealers, mostly used tire dealers. When you see tires that are dropped off with the writing on them or the sizes, those came from a used tire dealer, more than likely. Sometimes Joe Citizen will want to make a few extra bucks, and he will get paid $1 a tire and haul them to our sites and drop them off because he drops them off for free. They're learning that if they keep less than 10 tires, they can just kind of skate in under the radar. The problem is the Grafton and Lorain trailers, they're unmanned, so they dump them there. Some of the other issues we're finding is we're finding tires dumped out in the country, out in the fields, farm fields, in the cities, in the abandoned homes. They're filling them up. They'll break into the house, and they've had a couple houses that were literally stuffed full of tires. I think one house in South Lorain had 3,500 tires in it. One house. This property owner's job to clean it up, so it cost him quite a bit of money to get rid of those tires. The person hired to dispose of tires historically are also convicted criminals. And we're finding a direct connection between the heroin drug trade and these people who are hauling tires. It's a quick, easy way for them to make some quick money to go get a fix. So it's enabling them to do this. And our illustrious used tire stores are involved in it with them. You can see some of the dump sites we've had. Abandoned houses, fields. Some of them in the cities. The one site there, which shows my cruiser in the background, that we actually ended up finding there was 7 large U-Haul truckloads of tires that were dumped on that property. And we have a suspect in it. We actually convicted him on another dumping. He's a serial tire dumper, if there is such a thing. We actually prosecuted him right here in Lorain County, and the state of Ohio now is prosecuting him in 5 other counties, and the state of Pennsylvania is looking at him also. So he is a big problem, and hopefully he'll stay out of Lorain County now that we've prosecuted him.
How much do they have to pay to actually legally dispose of a tire?
The tire stores, it varies on how many tires they're getting rid of and what type of tires, but the average automobile tire costs them roughly, and I'm generalizing here, about $1.50 a tire. They charge you usually $4 a tire to get rid of them, so that covers their handling of the tire, storing of the tire, and the disposal. There's also laws on storing the tires. They can only store so many tires on site, and if they're not undercover, they can only stay there 30 days. Well, we're finding a lot of tire stores aren't doing that. They're there for years. And we have one in Lorain that's out of business now, and there's probably 5,000 or 6,000 tires stacked up around it. So
they're basically making like $3.50 on, or $2.50.
$2.50 a tire
because
profit.
they're charging $4 and paying
Yeah, that's
some
usually,
kid
and I'm
$1.
using that as a generalization, but that's usually how it goes. So yeah, they're making a little money on the side, but if they can get somebody home for $1 a tire, they make 50 cents more, you know.
Right.
And they don't have to jump through the hoops of waiting for a licensed tire hauler, and that goes back to the 10 tires. If you're going to haul more than 10 tires, you have to be a licensed tire hauler through the Ohio EPA. Now, if we catch you hauling more than 10 tires and you're not licensed, it's an unclassified felony in the state of Ohio. And it has a minimum fine of $10,000.
Wow.
We've caught people doing this. We have yet to have one charged the minimum fine. So anyhow, but that's how it goes. We've also caught tires coming in from outside the county. We actually we didn't end up prosecuting these guys. They ended up paying for the cleanup of the tires. They came out of Olmsted Township, They were on their father's property, and they thought because they were Lorain County residents, they could bring these tires in. They brought just under 200 tires to us. Well, we ended up hunting them down, and they ended up having to pay for the cleanup of the tires. So they took care of that. But we are also getting them from other stores and junkyards. We've also caught a junkyard guy bringing us tires. So. If you go to the next one with the white pickup truck, that was actually at the Grafton tire trailer. We do have cameras on that trailer, by the way. This truck pulled in. It doesn't. You can tell that it's a commercial business. He doesn't have any front plate. You can see the stickers in the windshield that indicate it came from a dealership somewhere. We checked with all our Lorain County dealerships. This truck does not exist in Lorain County. We're pretty confident it came out of Medina County. We have yet to find it. But Ashland and Medina County, we're getting a lot of tires out of those counties also. One of the things we're doing to try to correct the problem, because anytime we deal with these tire stores, the first thing out of their mouth is, "Oh, we didn't know." Well, they know. They know what the laws are because they have to follow strict EPA guidelines. So to correct that problem, we have 3 pieces of literature that we produced from the EPA, and they allowed us to reprint them with our logos on them and stuff. We're distributing them to retailers and tire transporters along with general public. We have the first one is a handout for basically for the public to tell them about the hazards of scrap tires being left on their properties and so forth. And those are given out at public events. The second handout is used for us to meet the owners of these tire dealerships. And we've already started this. And what we do is we go out to the tire dealership, we introduce ourselves, we give them our cards. We ask them, there's some simple questions we ask them, who hauls their tires? How do you store your tires? How many tires are on site? We inspect their tire piles to see how they have it. If they're in violation, then we give them 30 days in which to correct their problem. Within those 30 days, we will go back, revisit the tire dealership, make sure they've corrected the problem. If they haven't, what we do then at that point is we start the process of prosecution. So that we give them plenty of time to get it straightened up. And that prosecution process takes roughly another 30 days. So they still have plenty of time to correct the problem before we get to the point of actually charging them with a criminal crime. And the crime could be anything from how they're storing the tires, how many tires are on site. If they have over 1,000 tires, it's a felony, how, if they're not stored properly. And these are scrap tires. And the definition of scrap tires, anything once it leaves the primary use that it was used for. In other words, once that tire is taken off the car, it can be a good used tire. It's still considered a scrap tire, according to how EPA. So they take them off. Sometimes they'll store them to try to resell them. And that's fine as long as they're storing them properly. And that we're taking the fire department inspectors with us and the health department. So they have knowledge of this is why we have to do it this way for the public, and it's just for the better welfare of the public in general, the health issues. So we visit them, and we're actually compiling a book, and each dealership will have a page in that book, who we contact, who's the owner, how do we get a hold of them, name of the business, and if we did see a violation, who does haul their tires and stuff like that. So we can keep a running tally on all these tire stores in our county. It also gives us a chance to build a relationship with the tire stores. And so far we found that the majority of our tire stores are actually following the rules. They do a really good job in our county. The third handout is for our tire transporters. And we actually give that to the dealership also, the tire dealers. We give them a copy of that handout. And that lets them know, number one, a store cannot let anybody haul tires from their business, and this is according to state law, that isn't a licensed hauler. In other words, Jimmy can't come in there and say, hey, I'll get rid of them tires for you. I'll take 10 of them at a time, at $1 a tire. They can't even allow him to do that because those tires now are part of a business, and they have to be disposed of properly. And it's because of the huge problem. And this isn't just Lorain County, it's across the state. We actually are in partners with the Cleveland PD and their environmental unit because a lot of our dumpers, once we started putting the pressure here, started going over there. So we're trying to make it as friendly as possible for them and give them as much information as possible before we actually go out and start citing them into court, so they can't say they didn't know. The scrap metal laws, there's been some changes in that. They actually have what they call a special purchase item list now, and these items cannot be brought in by just anybody. They have to be brought in by, say, a municipality, a railroad, an electric company, something like that. A junkyard can't even accept it, a scrapyard. If they do accept it, there better be documentation to show that this person was given the authority to go ahead and remove these items. So let's say manhole covers, beer kegs, stuff like that. They can't even accept it. If we find it at the junkyard when we do an inspection, and they can't prove to us where that came from, we don't have to prove anymore that it's stolen, according to the new law. They're not allowed to have it, period. We don't have to say, well, that came from CSX, or that came from Budweiser, or that, you know, that just the fact that they have it is a criminal offense if they cannot prove where it came from. So this law was actually written by the salvage industry. It wasn't written by the state of Ohio. They pulled together trying to clean up their image, and they wanted these put in so that the guys that were doing it right didn't have to compete with people that weren't. Basically is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was there when that was put together, and there's no question the industry wrote their own law. So if anybody ever tells you that, hey, I didn't know about this, or whatever, or tries to wiggle out of something, that the industry said this is, you know, what we're going to work with, because a lot of the bad vendors are giving the good vendors a bad name.
Correct. And the whole purpose of it was to weed out the bad vendors. You know, let's get the guys that are doing it right, and the guys that are contributing to more crime. Because what these scrap thefts are doing is they're going into abandoned houses, foreclosed houses, stripping them of their copper. They're going into businesses that are closed, stealing air conditioners, you know, big air handlers. We had a lot of them taken. Well, a lot of that stuff now, you know, the average person can't just bring it in. He has to show why he has that stuff. There has to be documentation. They also created what they call a do not buy list. And this do not buy list has been slowly evolving. The way the law reads is the sheriff or the clerk of courts. Well, we don't have the information of who was convicted of a theft offense. If it's a misdemeanor theft offense, they're on the list for 3 years, and a junkyard cannot buy from them. If they're a felony theft offense, they can't buy from them for 6 years, so they're on the list for 6 years. So pretty much the clerk of courts, it's kind of in their ballpark to do that. We do have some of our courts that are really doing an excellent job on it, and I'll give Oberlin kudos, because they were the first ones to jump on board and get it going. They did a really good job with the do not buy list. Some of the other ones are a little slow. They're working the kinks out, and they'll get it done short.
You may wonder why Homeland Security is involved in this scrap metal law. We have found, and they have found, that a lot of these funds from the scrap metal deals are going into terrorism and being shipped overseas to terrorist groups. So that's the reason Homeland Security and the State Attorney General got involved in this.
One of the changes in the law, too, is they actually put on training seminars across the state, and it was the scrap industry that did it, and Homeland Security. And it was open to all scrap yards, junk yards, law enforcement. I think I went to 2 of them, and they were good programs they put on. And then we have a couple yards here in Lorain County that apparently didn't get the memo or something. I don't know, because they've never showed up. So what we're thinking about doing is doing a local environmental and the scrap theft laws program here in Lorain County for the junkyards, and inviting them all again. Our partners over at the Cleveland PD are actually certified to train and to put the class on, and they've already volunteered to come over and do it with us. So we've helped them over there on some cases, and they help us. It's kind of nice having the 2 counties working together. So. You know, the county, it's been a learning curve for us since April of 2009 when we started the environmental crime unit. We didn't really know what was expected of us. We had to learn it as we went. And we've been working with our prosecutors and our judges to try to bring them up to date. There's some issues with environmental laws aren't really the fancy law, you know, the crimes, environmental crimes. So, you know, the murders and the rapes and stuff, those bring headlines. Environmental crimes really doesn't. So they haven't really taken us on. We've had a case now since 2012 sitting on the docket over at the Common Pleas Court. We're waiting to go to court on that one, hopefully in the next month or two. In March of 2014, we had the district hosted a free environmental law seminar, and with partnership with Keep Ohio Beautiful, and we had the highest audience in the state. We had almost 150 people show up for it. Unfortunately, 29 came from Lorain County, and it was hosted right here. 7 were from various community law departments, 3 from various police departments, 11 from the health department. It was a really good program, and we had actually hand-delivered letters to all the courts, all the judges, all the prosecutors, everybody. Anybody we could think of, we hand-delivered a letter in our county. The outside counties got it from, they sent out flyers to the different counties to see if they wanted to participate. We were kind of hurt that none of the judges showed up, but it was actually continued education for them. They could have actually got credits for being there.
Yeah, I was going to say when I was with the city of Elyria, I attended an environmental law seminar that was put on. I was trying to remember if it was over at the Ramada or the Holiday Inn at the time, and you know, a lot of the concerns that you're bringing up, and you know, that had to be back in, I don't know, 2004, 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. And a lot of the concerns that you're bringing up today, unfortunately, all these years later, are still a concern. And that concern is that folks just don't take environmental law seriously.
They don't.
You know, whether it's the offenders or others, because it's not as front page, I guess you could say, as you said with some of the other offenses. But it's something that I would just urge you that if you, when you're talking to law enforcement and others, to try to maybe get them more engaged in it. If you start to indicate to them that this has now become part of helping to facilitate the drug trade in our county, that I think a lot more folks would probably, you know, become more engaged. But that's always been a challenge, I think, with any kind of environmental violations, is that folks don't see them much as, you know,
a serious infraction,
as serious of a threat. But it's a serious threat. Even when you look at this graphic that's in front of us right now, that's a serious threat. And with the tires ending up in, you know, the rivers as well too. I'm always amazed by, during the Black River cleanup, how many tires are pulled out of the river.
I think the one year they pulled over 500 tires just out of Cascade Park.
Right.
We actually are doing something about that. We've met with, we had a meeting with the Chiefs of Police Association here in Lorain County. We did a presentation for them. And Avon PD is actually going to have us come over and do a training session with their guys, what to look for. Illyria's talking about us talking to their guys. The mayor from Lorain has already reached out to us in the past and current, and Chase and us are sitting down. We're trying to get some programs going up in the city of Lorain to try to get Lorain cleaned up, and
Right.
It's a mess.
It's just a quality of life issue. I mean, I get enough
It's
phone
huge.
calls with hoarders being next door, and if you go back to the prior slide where it's stuffed in garages in these neighborhoods, I mean, it's just ridiculous, the things you see. And it's really, I mean, getting law enforcement involved from a county perspective is very important. But the judges and prosecutors have to treat this just as they would
We
any
have to
other
have-
crime to clean this up. I mean, this is ridiculous, the dollars expended. And then when you talk about Homeland Security involved in this, because those dollars being passed through, just significant challenges, and it really needs to be addressed as a significant, serious crime and be prosecuted as such. So, I mean, I just like you guys to keep pushing that and get those guys trained. We've got to get the judges on board. I've had multiple discussions with municipal court judges across the county. It just doesn't seem to rise to the level.
No.
Well, I mean, they have significant crimes, don't get me wrong. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
where it doesn't, you know, the felonies coming across, the murders and the drug trade, but this has to be considered just as serious in the long run to keep our communities clean. I mean, we're doing enough with the county land bank, with demolishing these houses and trying to clean up neighborhoods when you have something like that living next door to you. And like I said, I've been to constituents' houses who have that next door to them. It's disgusting, but get something done about it.
Well, and it lowers your home value too. You know, if we're trying to come out of this economy and try to build this area, and you got these blighted homes, is basically what they are, in a neighborhood. You got a $200,000 home here, and you got a house that could be worth that much next to it, but he's got so much crap piled up. Well,
Keith, what happened to your picture?
No. There it is.
Well, you know, a lot of this, you know, needs to be, you need a building department, you know, because you got code enforcements. A lot of this comes down to code enforcements specifically within the incorporated areas, but the unincorporated areas, they don't have a building department, so the code enforcement is spotty at best. And so, you know, that's another issue we need to revisit sometime in the future, how to have that code enforcement with building codes, because most of the folks that litter their property like this, I'm saying littered kindly, some of them are hoarders, and we saw a fatality here in an area because of hoarding, where the person couldn't get out of the home. But they usually have significant code violations on the property, on the home. Without a vehicle to address that, it's really hard to get onto the property. So it's just something we need to consider as a holistic approach to how we help tackle this problem, and especially in the unincorporated areas.
and one of the things, when we do encounter a property like this, we don't just go out and arrest and charge and cite them and all that right away. We usually try to work with them and get it cleaned up. And we've worked with Carlisle Township on a property that we were getting numerous complaints with, and we went over and actually gave them time to clean it up.
And Kalo does code enforcement.
They do a good job.
So, I mean, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah. So most of our townships, we work really good with the people who are there. Columbia, we just did a huge one out there, and it was unbelievable. But inside the house, there's not much we can do inside a house.
Right.
If it's inside the boundaries of their home walls, they can live how they want, I guess. But
Be aware, we're using the guys more and more to work with Pat Metzger. We run into a house the other day that we already had a sheriff's deed for, and there was a guy remodeling it already. So,
That was an interesting scenario. We owned the house and somebody else was remodeling it.
Yeah.
So that presented quite
put a
bit
new
of
roof on it.
fun.
We sent the guys out to take care of it, so.
Hey,
I
They'd
don't
already put a
understand,
new
why
roof
was
on
somebody
it.
remodeling a house that we own?
Apparently, they
Was he
didn't know
confused?
that they had lost the house. I
He had
guess they never
actually-
read the mail
No,
or
he
something.
bought the deed over the internet.
Yeah.
Oh,
He sent money to Columbus to somebody.
So,
So,
So they get those as well, all right?
wow. And then we've been handling the junk abandoned motor vehicles because the abandoned vehicle law changed. The towing laws have changed drastically in the state of Ohio. They really need to look at them again because I think they messed them up a little bit. But we, enforcement now for like the average tow yard to go out and tow a car off somebody's property, there's no avenue for them to get rid of that car. So if it's left abandoned there. So what we're telling people is to contact us, and there is an avenue through the Ohio Revised Code on junk abandoned motor vehicles left on private property and public properties. And there's a whole process we have to go through, but we do that too. And we've done quite a few cars. So,
Thank you,
trying to
Commissioner.
clean up the
unfortunately, you're
county.
being kept pretty busy, and
if-
that's-
Yeah.
Commissioner, I would, just for a moment, Keith had spoken earlier to Grafton Collection Center and Lorain Correction Center. Our plan for both areas, one I've already had conversation with the mayor on, and he's agreed. We're going to enclose an area, rather than having it open 24/7 and just having drop-off. We're going to enclose the area. We're going to use collection center staff to have hours at those locations for drop-off. Now, the other problem is, even though we enclose it, we close the gate, and we're not open, people will drive up and stack the tires outside the fence. So we need to add some additional security, so our deputies here can go out and apprehend the bad guys with cameras with the license plates that'll view the vehicles coming in, the plates. I think we'll get a better process that way. With them enforcing helps, but we also need to deter those people that are coming in, like you said, making $8 to go drop off tires and do that. So we're gonna have to spend a little bit of money, but in the end, I think we'll have a better product, a better service, and we'll be able to more efficiently monitor who's dropping off tires, because they have to give ID, driver's license numbers, et cetera. That'll stop those rogue people that are dropping off, 7 or 8 tires. Got to ask somebody, how come they dropped off, 8 tires 4 times? How many vehicles do they have? I think that'll work. We haven't clarified that yet completely down in Grafton, but we're going to work towards the same solution in Grafton. And we'll need the cameras down there too.
Do we have a location for the Lorain facility?
Well, we're going to work where we are now. There's some space back there, but we wanted to make sure the mayor was agreeable to the proposal there for the tire drop-off. As you know, Elyria has already the ability to drop them off here at the collection center. So we just need to do a better job in Lorain and down in Grafton. The one in Grafton is really important because you get a lot of township use down in Grafton.
Pride Week's coming up, and that's where all the Pride Week tires in the south will go to, is Grafton trailer. So that's an important little key element to have for us. All right?
But you can see on that paper, on the stats from the 2 years, how Lorain has doubled in the number of tires.
And while they're dropping,
They're beating the collection center.
Too.
Huh?
They have less residents. They have
Less
more
residents,
tires.
yeah, a lot more tires. So,
Thank you. Thanks for the update. David, you have a comment about the tires?
I do, actually. Thank you, Commissioners. David Ashenhurst, Oberlin. I'm really amazed that some of the rest of us didn't hear about this free environmental law seminar. I can tell you that in Oberlin, we have a resource conservation and recovery commission that covers recycling and various environmental concerns. I've also been, part of the Black River Area of Concern Advisory Committee for a long time. I can just tell you that obviously law enforcement isn't what we're about. We also have a housing renewal commission in Oberlin, there are citizens in some of the incorporated areas who take responsibility for developing recommendations to our council for legislative authority to get nuisance conditions cleaned up and stuff like that. So I think the interest in this from a law perspective, not from a law enforcement perspective, would be very beneficial to, I don't expect to get a hand-delivered letter, but a March 2014 free environmental law seminar would have had at least several people from Oberlin who'd be very interested in it. Certainly the people also who are interested in pipeline safety and things like that. Those are environmental
Keith,
matters.
how did we get the word out on that symposium? We're not disagreeing with you, David. We just now have to figure out.
No,
how
I
we
mean,
put the words
I'm
on.
just saying, if there's another one, please let us know.
We're looking at doing another one with another agency that has a state grant for this. It's a combination of a former prosecutor, a law enforcement agent that worked for Columbus Sheriff's Department for quite a few years, and City Police Department. We're working on that now, but this will be a 2-day seminar.
My question was, how do we get the word out on the last
We
one?
send to every police department, and the guys contact every police department,
Okay, in the
Teresa said
future, really,
she
what
had
I'd
it on
like,
the agenda.
I'm sure I put it on the agenda
okay, well, if I was,
under correspondence.
we can send out, we have a way of sending notices out to
Yeah.
the administrative leadership of each jurisdiction. So we'll just add that to our,
I mean, I know our commission and our recycling coordinator, our public works director are on the, solid waste screen, but something like this would not have necessarily been brought to the attention of them. And it just sounds like it was really interesting.
we'll just step up the communication, Sherry.
Right.
No big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah, if we can just
We're
make
gonna have
that,
another one.
make it part of our yearly marketing plan, if we can lock in dates early, and then when we're doing the radio ads or the ads in the football, basketball forecast, those types of things that we can clearly put in there when it's going to be, because I'm sure a lot of members of the public would, love to attend too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you. Okay. Madam Clerk,
Under Resolutions Number 1, Investments,
so moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye,
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Appropriations,
so moved.
Second.
Discussion, Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundy,
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Transfers,
So moved.
Second.
discussion, Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundy,
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
No advances, no repayments, requisitions,
So moved.
Second.
discussion, Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Were we going to have discussion on those items?
I haven't had a chance to research it, so
Okay.
I have it here. I think this is one you want to hold until we,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess for my colleagues, I just raised a couple questions. I wanted to start taking a look at these state grants that we're making purchases from. We had two requisitions that came through, one for $9,100, another one for $11,252 for the purchasing of drug testing supplies. And we had made a request the other day to see if we could get a copy of those grants to take a look at what all's involved with those before moving forward on these.
Commissioner Lundy placed it on my desk yesterday. As you know, I was out
Yeah.
most of yesterday. I will suggest that the last time we made an inquiry, we got spanked for asking. So, I mean, I can make the same request, but we may receive the same answer because we never received an answer for the last request. We were just told that we were kind of diminished in the whole process.
But there's $20,000 significant amount of money
I
for
think it
drug
is.
testing supplies. That seems pretty significant to me. So that's why I'm just looking for greater
We
clarification.
did pass the last time they asked for the drug testing
Exactly.
supplies, right?
Well, we were told we had to.
Right,
Right.
so this is another additional, it's almost double.
Well, they do, you
But
know.
we did confer with the counselor that they're not in competition with us as far as their drug testing, right, Jerry? They're not trying to take our customers from our crime lab,
Okay.
right? Or do we not know that?
Well, my biggest concern was recently, I think there was the furniture purchase that was bundled with the drug testing supplies. Yeah, I'm trying to recall what that amount was, but just when I saw $9,000 from one grant and 11, was it 9,000 and 11 from the other grant?
Well, they did separate it this time because I think there's furniture in that packet as well.
Well, the two I got are for drug testing supplies, and the time period that they have open suggests to me that they're exhausting their ability to buy these under the grant, which, to be honest with you, they should. They shouldn't return the money. It looks like this is an open PO to 30 June 15. Just on a quick look at it, I would think that they're closing out the grant because it's on a state fiscal year, and they're probably exhausting that by buying these supplies. I'll verify that, but I think that's probably what they're doing.
No. And as I've said before, we don't want anybody losing grant money. I just thought that $20,000 was a significant investment that was being made at the time, so I just wanted to get a greater clarification as to what the grant actually called for, and
Perfect.
just take another look. We obviously still have a little bit of time.
Oh, absolutely. We have right up until the 30th of June.
Right.
And I don't know why they
Yep.
separated them out. They look like the exact same request.
Might be too funding.
Commissioner Lundy asked the last time that we not bundle
Right, no,
those things.
no, I'm saying both of them are for drug testing supplies, and both of them are for the grant, and I don't see a different,
I think it may be two different grant programs. So, but we
Oh,
we have
There's
time.
Yep,
two
yep,
different
yep,
grants for
ISP
it.
and
Two different
PSI.
grants, right.
Yep,
Two different
okay.
grants. So if you're gonna hold 631 and 632, and while we're in executive session, maybe we can get some clarification on that when we come back out.
Okay. Hold up until after.
So my motion would be to withhold
We'll
those
hold
two
those until
items.
after executive session. That's fine.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye,
Mr. Lundy,
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Travel,
so moved.
Second.
discussion, Ms. Kowski.
Aye,
Mr. Lundy,
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Bills,
so moved.
Second.
discussion, Ms. Kowski.
Aye,
Mr. Lundy,
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Under the Commissioners, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorraine County Commissioners.
Mr. Cortez?
I do have a few personnel actions at Golden Acres that I wish to discuss with the board. Also, the potential sale and purchase of real estate, and an update on ongoing litigation. All three of those topics are allowable under the Sunshine Act for executive session discussion, so I'd ask at the conclusion of a regular board meeting, we go into executive session and discuss those 3 items that I've outlined. Thank you.
Thank you.
Approve and waive the reading of the minutes of April 8th and 15th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Authorize agreement and payment of $610,951 to Corsa for the insurance renewal effective May 1st, 2015 through April 30th, 2016.
The Commissioners, if I may for a moment, I would really like to hold this. As you know, a few years ago, first of all, excuse me, I have a cold. My apologies for just getting on the agenda before I was prepared for it. It came to me a little late. I have some questions on it. A few years ago, we moved from a $5,000 deductible to a $25,000 deductible because I did a loss claims analysis, and it looked like we were leaving money on the table because we weren't assuming enough risk of our own. That's proven to be really fruitful for us. How we have done this is we purchase from Corsa the $25,000 deductible, but we bill all of our departments for a $5,000 deductible because some of them are smaller. They could not take a $25,000 hit to some of the funding. So the departments that have an event that they're responsible for pay the first $5,000. We pick up the next $20,000 from the money we've been saving in the difference of the premium, and then Corsa picks up from $25,000 above. I haven't had a chance to go back and look over last year to see what the loss experience ratio has been.
We'll do a retrospective look at it.
I want to look at that, and even if it was a little higher than what we were saving between the difference of the 2 premiums, I may recommend still continuing depending on what the trend was, because you really can't look at 1 year at a snapshot. You look at a trend over 2 or 3 years. What we've been doing is the money that's been between the 2 different premiums, we've been banking that as a reserve against claims, and I want to make sure that that reserve is adequate, number one, and number two, that the trend is still in a positive direction for us to continue to assume some of that risk liability. Fortunately, I don't have that information, and I really believe I need it to be able to make the proper recommendation to the board with regard to the liability insurance. Again, my apologies. This got to me a little later than I anticipated. I spoke with Lisa, and we're working on getting that data. I doubt you have it. We didn't talk until late yesterday, right? So I don't think that this will be a problem waiting for a little while.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that the risk we're taking is a good risk.
I'm just saying the May 1st date is my only concern.
Well, we've passed this as late as the middle of May before.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, we don't
Waiting
have
on
any
information.
issue. That's fine.
Okay.
So hold.
Yeah.
Approve an allocation of payment in the amount of $59,000 to Soil and Water Conservation District for 2015, $25,000 from the general fund, and then $25,000 will be reimbursed from stormwater utility funds and $9,000 from fees.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundey.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Under Community Development, award contract to Herc Excavating Vermillion in the amount of $91,914, which includes a 10% contingency for any unforeseen change orders for the Edgewood Drive Storm Sewer Installation Phase 2 project, Carlisle Township. 5 bids were opened on April 3rd, with this being the most responsive complying with specifications. And CDBG 14 grant funds will pay $84,300, and Carlisle Township will pay the balance. Issue notice to proceed on or before April 22nd and complete on or before December 31st. Authorize administrator to notify the auditor to release retainage at completion of the project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundey.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Under Job and Family, advertise requests for bids for school clothing and shoe voucher program for low-income children. Notice to be in the Chronicle on April 27th and May 4th and open at 2 p.m. on May 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundey.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Authorize Director of JFS to be designated to execute the inter-county adjustment of allocations pursuant to 5101-9682 inter-county adjustment allocations of the Administrative Code published by Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. ODJFS Bureau of County Finance will oversee and approve effective May 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundey.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Authorized purchase service agreement with the County Commission of Ohio Service Corporation and Ohio CSEA Directors Association to provide fraud investigation and location services from West Publishing Corporation, St. Paul, Minnesota, effective retroactive to March 1st, 2015 through May 31st, 2016, and a cost not to exceed $2,148.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Under solid waste, approve the 2015 community incentive grant funding in the amount of $375,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
If we can have some discussion on that, policy committee met, Mr. Bailey's here again, he enjoys the FaceTime, I guess. But based on the revenues and the cost savings from last year, as you know, we're down employees in our solid waste department. We're able to raise the community grants $100,000. So go ahead, Mr. Bailey.
No, I just wanted to let you know why we did the extra $100,000. I think it's something we can do for our communities. And this is the breakdown for this year. And they're always last minute getting their data in, arguing about their data numbers. We've been through it with all the townships and everybody, but this is a solid final breakup of the money, all right? And then we'll start talking about it tomorrow with the communities and all the requirements, all right, at the transportation center, all right?
Wonderful. Thanks, Keith.
No additional employees going to be needed for the secondary drop-off locations?
Which ones you talking about, Commissioner?
Grafton and Lorain?
That's
Well,
collection center.
That's collection center.
Right.
We'll see. We have a lot of intermittents. We'll probably, it's going to cost us more to operate those areas, but I believe that through the hiring of sometimes they're temporary, sometimes they stay with us a while, staff for the collection center, we should be able to cover it, but we will have a little extra cost. I don't think the hours are going to be that extensive. We're talking about maybe 1 or 2 days a week for a few hours. The key is going to be able to get a communication out that people know when it's operating so that they have a conscious understanding of when to drop those tires off.
Similar to our collection center, which is not open every
3
day,
days a
9 to
week.
5. It's 3 days a week, and it's, you know.
Well, the collection center
advertised as
works
such.
well. You know, interestingly, I was mowing the lawn Sunday, and one of my neighbors came down and wanted to thank the Board of Commissioners for the shredding day over in Elyria, because it was such a great success. As these events every year, and I should have said when Keith was up here how well the event went, as they become routine and people anticipate those events occurring, more and more folks are coming out to those. And once we do the educational component center, center component out at where we are now, I think we'll have even a more heightened understanding of where to go for different chemicals to be disposed of.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Under Common Pleas, adult probation, approved grant agreement in the amount of $910,387 with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, Division of Parole and Community Services, Bureau of Community Sanctions 407 non-resident felony.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Approve the grant agreement in the amount of $182,835 with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, Division of Parole and Community Services, Bureau of Community Sanctions 408 non-residential misdemeanor.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Actually, for both of these grants, there's a section in there where they're required to do a audit of the grant. And I'm just wondering if we could, after that's completed, get a copy of what they submit.
Well, sure. I'm assuming that the grants are audited when we do our annual audits with the state, but I can ask them what process they're using. Believe me, if it calls for an audit, it's being audited.
Oh, yeah, it
They
is.
do a good job on their
Right.
grants, and we may have a little bit of a question about some of the expenditures, but they do a real good
Well,
job.
this is for PSI, just maybe we can somehow be able to get some money for housing or other things other than just salaries at one point in the future.
Well,
Oh, here comes Deb.
here's the
Good.
We've
push-pull.
tried that.
Yeah, here's the push-pull of the issue. There's only so much money, so put it over here, and then you gotta come up with money over here. So you're still paying for it yourself one way or another.
Come on.
I know you have copies of those grants because you're required to sign those, so that in there tells you what those grants are for. And the money that we are asking for these change in expenditures is also from these grants from the prior year. So that also explains, what we're allowed and what we're not allowed to do. You also should get a copy of the audit that's done every year. It should be submitted. I believe it's submitted to the clerk. But if it's not, I will absolutely make sure you get a copy of it. We have done a very fine job.
Obviously, they keep giving you money, so you must be doing something right.
Yes, they keep giving us more and more money because our probation department is doing a very fine job.
Who's the fiscal officer for those grants? Is it?
It's the probation officer. It's the chief probation officer, Beth. So, obviously, I help her. She has administrative assistants, but she is really the
So the administrative
of the grant.
agent is the courts, the fiscal?
I guess I'm not sure what you're asking.
The grant recipient would be Lorain County?
County, yes.
So I guess, and I know you're unprepared, and I apologize for that, but I guess that you could decide who the fiscal agent is too, for the grants, if you have some questions. That's your decision. So if you have those questions, you can simply designate your budget department as the fiscal agent, and then you would deal with the fiscal issues. You're the grant recipient. It's your decision who the fiscal agent is.
Interesting, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you can change that to your budget department if you want, and then a lot of your questions will probably not materialize later on.
When would we have to make that decision?
Right now.
Right now?
Well, but again, you're the grant recipient, and you're the designator of the fiscal agent under the grant request.
Are you prepared to do that?
So legal could look at that and give us
Lisa, you want to come up?
clarification.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just to clarify on the grant issue that Commissioner Lundy was looking at, I did get copies of their grants from last year, and I just said to Debbie I will get with her after the meeting. Within that grant, it says that the grant application specifies the program services, but I don't have a copy of the grant application, so that's what I'm waiting for with regards to those.
Okay.
And if you would like me to do what the administrator is proposing, then we would be more than happy to do it.
It's your grant. That's why I asked those questions. I didn't mean to put her on the spot, but as the grant recipient, you also are the person that designates within the grant who the fiscal agent is.
The financial and the fiscal, everything would run through the auditor for that kind of stuff, but it'd be as far as who's administering that grant and overseeing the expenditures and whatnot for it, which would be the payroll and the benefits and anything that they do over there.
And then Jerry or legal's already reviewed this to weigh in to make sure logistically that's the way it could be handled. I just want to make sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's. Or if we need more time to do that.
I've never been asked that question.
Okay. I would almost...
Looked at the grant agreement.
Yeah.
The grant agreement.
I personally, I guess I would feel more comfortable if we at least ran it through legal to take a quick look just to logistically make sure that that's the way that we could do this.
Oh, and we can do that real quick while we're in exec. I can tell you that when you're the grant recipient, the reason you get to designate the financial agent is because you're responsible for that grant. You're responsible for all the expenditures, the accounting, everything. And so at the end of the day, that's why you're allowed to pick who the fiscal agent is for the grant, because you're the grant recipient.
Okay.
I was just wondering what, responsibilities go along with being a fiscal agent. I mean, are we also responsible for making sure that when the renewal comes up that we submit the new application? I'm just trying to figure out the logistics.
Actually, technically, the courts make the application, but you're the grant recipient. You're technically responsible for applying for the grant, but they make sure that you apply for the grant because they use that grant to fund adult probation.
And you do get copies of that. And if
Yeah,
you do not
right.
have copies of that now, I can make sure that you do get them. You get them for all the grants for all the courts. For every agency that applies for a grant,
Comes here.
it comes there first.
Signed off a ton for drug workforce, everybody else.
Oh,
signed
we're
up.
the fiscal agent on many, many grants.
Right.
Okay, so it's not an uncommon practice for us.
let's have Jerry take a look at it while we're in executive session.
Okay.
So we're gonna hold that, what we're gonna do with the one before it? We
Well, I don't
approved
think
one.
that, those are two separate issues.
They're two
aren't they?
separate issues.
There. Well, okay, so
We
approve
can
this
go ahead and
without.
approve it without.
Well, I
we can
wouldn't
make-
approve it. If you approve it, then you can't change it.
Right,
So-
and the one we already approved. This is the second one.
There's two of them.
There's two
Well,
of them.
you may want,
Rescind the first one.
let's wait till we come back out. You can rescind when we come back out if you want to change the fiscal agent on the grants.
Okay. Jerry, you can find that during our executive period?
So the clerk
So
will
do
need
you
to-
both, on this one that we did not take the motion, we have a motion and a second, we don't have a vote yet.
We'll
Do you
just
wanna
hold it.
Withdraw your motion and second, and then just hold until we come back?
Sure,
out?
we can, I'll withdraw my motion.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
Well, while we're out here publicly, can we rescind the vote on number 17
17.
also and have them both cleaned up so when we do them, one way or the
Right.
other?
We'll do them both at the same time. Okay, I'll rescind my vote on number 17.
And I'll second that.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to 19.
Award contract, under the engineer, award contract to Kalo Defense LLC, Cleveland, in the amount of $176,033.29 for Phase 6 of the guardrail project, and no substitutions, but will use Dennis Concrete, Inc. as subcontractor, providing seating and mulching the portion. 2 bids were received on April 9th, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications, and 100% on a federal grant. An engineer's estimate was $196,195. Issue notice to proceed on or before May 4th and complete on or before August 3rd. Authorize administrator to notify the auditor to release retainage at completion of project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Award contract to Kokoski Construction Malaria in the amount of $663,677.37 for the Island Road Resurfacing Project, Eden Township. 9 bids were received on April 9th, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications. No substitutions, but will use American Railway Logistics, BCC Ohio, and Zimmerman Paint Contractors as subcontractors. Engineer's estimate was $968,212, and project will be paid by OPWC 74% and 26% on the MVGT account. Issue notice to proceed on or before July 13th and complete on or before November 1st. Authorize administrator to notify the auditor to release retainage at completion of project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Award contract with MS Consultants, Inc. in the amount of $10,850 to complete CEAO FY15 safety studies for the intersection of the Middle Ridge Road and Oberlin Road South, Amherst Township, and $9,765 will be reimbursed by ODOT on behalf of the FHWA to be paid from MVGT account. Authorized engineer to execute on behalf of the Board of Prosecutors' approval as to form.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Amendment Resolution 15107 adopted February 18, 2015. Resolution 15136 adopted March 4, 2015. Authorizing engineer to enter an emergency contract with Crossroad Asphalt Recycling, Inc., Columbia Station for air-cooled blast furnace slag grit. Said amendment is to reflect an increase of tons from 4,760 tons to 7,164 tons at a cost from $49,980 to $74,766.98 to be paid from the supplies account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Mr. Cortez?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have one small thing I want to do this morning, and I want to have Don come up, but he's unprepared. But I want to talk about the standard qualification process we're going through. As you know, sometimes on smaller jobs, we've had a hard time getting our local folks to compete on a level that gives them the ability to gain as much work in Lorain County as possible. So we looked at our CDBG work and a couple other things we're doing. We came up with this process that we think is going to give them at least an aid in being more competitive with getting our work. Can you speak? I know you're off the cuff, and I didn't tell you this morning, but I really like to explain what we're doing.
In reviewing a project we had coming up, a question was raised as to the selection process, and we had advertised. And for a small design project, you don't get a lot of interest from people, and it had been married with our CDBG administration as well. A lot of the companies that do help with the administration, like the CT, Pogemeyer are two examples. But there are other companies that could do design for a sidewalk, but they don't do the administrative. We've looked to break it out, and according to Ohio Revised Code, what we're able to do for small projects, and these are design projects that are under $50,000, there is a process by which we are able to issue what's called a statement of qualifications. We can mail it out to our local companies, make sure they are aware, put it on the website, and basically encourage them to submit qualifications. Working with Karen, Keith Bailey, and others, we compiled a long list of potential projects or design services that we may need, from stormwater to sidewalks, lighting, fit plans, architectural layouts, things that are, maybe $5,000 here or $10,000 there. And then what we can do is, as we identify these projects, we can go to the list of people who had submitted and then select a company from that list to perform that and negotiate a price and a contract with that. And so it's an opportunity for us to really also be much more nimble and much more quick in being able to do things and make sure that we're giving our own, the most qualified people and most responsive people the opportunities to actually be able to participate on county contracts. And this is something we would then do on an annual basis to renew that list and keep it current.
So what I want to do is encourage any firms in Lorain County that do architectural work, engineering work, design build work, that they need to, we're advertising in the Morning Journal 4 times with this, right?
Technically, we do not need to advertise, but we can place an ad in the papers.
Okay, I thought we said we had to.
The advertising 4 times is the 759 Oliver.
Right. So, sorry, I got them mixed up, had
That's
two
okay.
issues here. But I actually do want to get something out there, even if, I don't know, I would rather just buy a small piece indicating what we're doing.
And refer to the website.
Refer to the website with
to
information. I really want to get Lorain County firms qualified so that we can choose them on the smaller projects here that they have not been able to get deep penetration into. And this is good for our community. It's more work for us. It's a lot more work for us, but we have to put in the work so they can get the work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure if we share that with our partners, Team Lorain County and the Chamber of Commerce, they can get that all out to their members also through their.
The chamber would be the chamber would be the best one because
Right.
they have the B2B.
Correct.
Okay,
So I
and
would think-
I know Don works with Tony all the time.
So if we can get that process out moving, it's nice to have the locals
Perfect.
available
Will
for
do.
work.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry I did that to you, Don.
No problem.
but,
That one I knew.
What we're trying to do here is really get better access for the people that are providing jobs here in Lorain County to our community, and not only do we owe it to them, we owe it to the people that live here that we utilize those businesses. So that's all I got this morning.
Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate the county administrator and appreciate you, Don, going the extra step. I'm a big believer that, in government, we spend a pretty good chunk of change,
Yes.
whether it's city government, county government, whatever local government it may be, and that it's really important that we do all that we can. Obviously, we're in government, so it's more of a competitive nature of where we need to do the lowest or best bid in the cases. But we need to at least try to engage the business community as much as possible to at least give them that opportunity to make them aware so they can be part of that process, because when we put those dollars back into our county, those dollars turn in our county,
Absolutely.
create jobs and and stimulate the economy here locally. So any effort we can make to make that more possible for our business community is time very well spent. So thanks for going the extra mile.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is that it?
Mr. Cortez, it's still your report if you have anything else.
Yeah, I'm good for this morning. Thanks.
Mr. Ennis?
I have no report this morning.
Commissioners report.
Well, for you here, won't help anybody watching this on Saturday or Monday, but today, from 10 to 2 at Midway Mall, Goodwill's having their job fair, and they have a record of 50 employers signed up to take applications from people. So if you need a job, or you know somebody that does, get on the phone, give them a call, send them an email, let them know to get to the Midway Mall today from 10 to 2. I had sent an email to Mr. Cortez. I know you weren't here for the morning, and I don't know if you had a chance to ask the other commissioners about the Nexus pipeline, but we've had numerous people come here. We've had numerous emails. These people have been very diligent about wanting us to, have their backs basically and come up with some kind of resolution. And I don't know exactly what that resolution is going to look like, but I would like to do something on their behalf.
I've had casual conversation with all three of you, and safe to say you all three have a strong opinion about where we should be at, and fortunately and unfortunately at the same time. I have not been able to reconcile them into a unified position. But all three have grave concerns. But how to communicate that concern has been a bit of a difference. But at the very least, we need to do something.
Yeah.
And so maybe we had to have a little conversation here so I can get a clear picture of what your desire is as a unified board.
Yeah, and if I could, Commissioner, I made your report. If you're looking for thoughts here, I certainly would look at being supportive, and I've indicated this to the county administrator that if we were to put together a resolution that talks about the importance of any path that this pipe takes impacting fewer households as possible, the fewest households as possible. Also making sure that there's more than sufficient setback, and exploring, looking at, shut-off valves. I think when we had that incident in the county a couple years ago, the closest shut-off valve was about 6 miles away, I think. So, you have to, even if you shut off that valve, then you got to wait for that pipe to drain for 6 miles yet before it becomes effective. So I think that's something else that we could put in there. I just want to stress again that it's difficult for me to support a resolution asking on a reroute because, as we've seen, we were contacted by a lady in Wellington who now she's finding out that due to a reroute, it's coming by her property. And anytime you do this reroute, you're still going to impact someone. But I agree with you, Commissioner, that we want it to impact the least number of homes possible. So I think, a resolution of that nature would cover the areas of concern. Safety is always going to be our greatest concern, but as long as it impacts the fewest number of residents, as long as we can deal with the having a sufficient setback, maybe some shut-off valves, any other safety issues that are tied into this, I think that would be good.
Do you have a specific amount of setback that you're looking at? I know that's a 1,500.
Yeah, I probably would rely on.
Is the blast zone, so are you looking at that, or are we going to?
The problem with something like a setback for a blast zone, unless they build it out in Nevada.
Yeah.
Covers that area.
Right, you probably would not be able to put a pipe in at all.
Anywhere. So when you're saying setbacks, like a normal setback for, right now there's no setback requirement at all, really.
50 feet either side of the pipe, right?
No.
They have to have clearance.
50 feet.
The 100-foot easement, and they stay 50 foot away.
It's a 50-foot easement.
I thought it was a 100-foot easement, 50 foot either side of the pipe.
I thought it was 50, but you might be right.
Yeah,
so are we going to put in a designated amount of setback in this resolution, or are we just going to say, generically speaking?
I don't think we can determine what the setback, that's one of my concerns. Again, I don't want to tell them where to move the pipeline to, and I don't think I'd support the green proposal because it's just sticking in somebody else's backyard. Huron County and Erie County have already endorsed the pipeline. So we have commissioners who were thinking it's a great item for their community. Again, I don't know how much it's going to do for Lorain County. I've always challenged them on their numbers in the public meetings. I think their numbers are way out of whack for the economic benefit.
My understanding up in our sister communities, they're going to be able to access pipeline gas where they don't have it right now.
Correct.
So
Lumber
they're considering it an economic development tool for the future because they're underserved by large gas pipelines. You know, it's funny, you know, one person's trash is another person's
treasure,
antique.
Right.
and so that's part of the balancing act that even FERC has to go through. So you now have competing communities and competing views of where that pipeline should be. Because Erie and Oran County now agree where that pipeline should be because they see it as a benefit to their community.
So I mean, we're taking on a challenge, not only regional, not only local, but also regional. And we all know the gas line's coming regardless of anything that we say here at the Board of Commissioners, but if we would like to do, you know, something in regards to safety, again, I couldn't support the reroute that Green has proposed. I don't think that's fair to our other residents. But for FERC to look at all options in regards to the pipeline affecting the least amount of residents and having proper setbacks or increased setbacks, that in case of danger, an accident, that it will cause less harm, you know, loss of property, loss of human life, or something along those lines. I guess we could do something along those lines.
I will, we have until the middle of the end of May. I'll start, I'll be gone until the 3rd of May, but I'll start crafting some responses that we can all chew on a little bit.
Okay.
And hopefully we can find a common theme. I got a couple of the issues here that I wrote down. I'll start getting some drafts out to you, and we'll so we can unify the voice of the board. But what I think I'm hearing clearly is that we're not going out with a request for a reroute.
Well, I'm also looking through this, Jim. I was going to report on the CCAO. There is something in the House budget version that got sent to the Senate. I've got to find the line item on it, that they do have something in regards to pipeline safety and or a study. I'll find it in here.
Siting board, probably, with the siting board. But
You were in the State House. They put things like that under higher education. You know, they split up these committees. So.
Even if it's 2,800 pages, you got to read every line.
Right.
Exactly. And I was just going to indicate, Commissioner, that Midview next Tuesday, the 28th, 6 p.m. is when FERC's going to have that next scoping session. So that'll be an opportunity to gather some more feedback at that time from residents. But as I said, I just want to make sure, since you asked, that you understand my position, that I would not be able to support the group's reroute plan, because it still impacts residents of this county. So, but the pipe is going to come through here, whether it's more to the east or more to the west. The fewer households, the greater the setback, the more safety concerns are taken into to consideration. I think that's probably the direction the resolution needs to go. Erie County with Plum Creek, and then they had a job-ready site that they actually produced over there, that this would help benefit for future economic development. You know, obviously, as Jim pointed out, some folks really think, you know, it's a great thing and they really want it. So, but I would be opposed to any resolution that actually outright opposes it, because I think we know that this pipeline is going to come through here. So if it's coming through, it's got to be safe. But I would not be able to support the request that's being made that we support a resolution that calls for the reroute, because it's still impacting some of our residents here in the county.
And I understand that only 70% less residents is what the reroute is asking.
And that's good.
Which
that's
is
a
good, but I understand there's still that 30,
Right.
30% that it is going to affect. But
Also, let me make this clear on behalf of all of you and me, because I was in those email chains, but I haven't responded because I'm not a decision maker on that. I can only merely talk with you. There is no collusion going on here. There is no big business supporting political agendas here. Some of the insinuations that have started to be
well, that was
small-
just one person. That wasn't the majority of the people are very
I understand
level-headed
that,
and very
but there was a lot of
concerned.
people in the CC chain on an email, and not many came to the rescue.
Right.
Indicating that was a kind of out-of-line behavior. There's been some insinuations, and we need to put those to rest. We don't have any connection with those folks. They're new to all of us since the pipeline issues became known. We need to keep it on a level, and we need to respond to those things as best we can, but those accusations need to be dealt with, and they're not true. You merely have talked to me multiple times, all of you, on trying to do what's in the best interest of the entire community. And, you know,
Tape change.
I don't
Hold
have
that
anything
thought.
important to say anyway.
Okay.
So with regard to that, what Commissioner Lundy's position is you put it in it's going to be in somebody's backyard, so now he's responsible for whose backyard it should be in. That's truly FERC's responsibility.
Okay, we're ready.
Thank you, Commissioners. David Ashenhurst, Oberlin. A clarifying question and then 2 other questions. The clarifying question is the question about the reroute. If it were shown that a reroute impacts 70% fewer households or something, that is a situation where we can reduce by 2/3 the number of backyards affected. And on behalf of the whole county, wouldn't that be better? And isn't that the county's responsibility rather than FERC's?
But then, I mean, with all due respect, you can make the argument that, you know, you went from 51% to 49%. Isn't that better too? So, you know, we can't really get caught up in percentages or numbers. As I said, it's still going through somebody's property, and if that's your property, believe me, you're very concerned about it. So it almost looks like, you know, we're taking sides. We'll side with these neighbors, but not with these neighbors over here. And ultimately, you know, we don't have a vote on this. All we can do is weigh in and say that we want it to impact the least amount of households as possible and be as safe as possible.
But if you say the least households, but you're not willing to think about endorsing a reroute that impacts 70% fewer households, it seems to me it's not 51-49, it's 70, you know, it's...
There could be a better reroute to the reroute. I mean, how many reroutes?
I agree. Take it out of the county completely. But so, I mean, I just wanted clarification on that. And 2 other questions. One is, are you going to be seeking any input from interested others as you craft the language on this resolution? And whether the answer to that is yes or no, can you let the public know in advance of your you know, so that we don't see it the day it's on the agenda, that we hear about it in advance and we know that there's a possibility that if people have improvements to suggest, I mean, it's
We'll just start sending those in now while we're...
Well, we don't, I mean, you'll put out the framework that people can respond to. That's all I'm asking is there going to be any opportunity to give you feedback on it before you pass it?
As to what, David? We've been getting tons of feedback.
Yeah.
That's why it's being addressed to
Well, I know,
multiple
but now you're
public
going to
meetings.
make a statement, and some people will be interested in assisting you.
Don't you think the board has taken enough input to craft what they believe is their position on the matter? I think they have.
We've had a lot of emails.
They
and-
continue to receive that input. But once they craft the product, they need to move on. They can't keep running around the track over and over again.
No, I'm just,
And we're not going to relook at another reroute. That's not what boards
no,
of
I
commissioners do.
understand.
So-
But I'm just asking if, I mean, right now you're getting feedback. Nobody's reacting to a draft here. And it would be, I think,
Well, I certainly would welcome, you know, any items that you think should be included in that. And, you know, we certainly would be willing to look at that. I was going to mention that we may want to take a look at some counties that have been impacted by pipelines prior to us. I think, is that Westchester in Pennsylvania? I'm trying to remember the name of the county, but they were the ones that I thought were probably the most progressive, most proactive as far as trying to put things in place to ensure safety, you know, for their residents. So we may visit and take a look at what kind of resolution maybe they had submitted to FERC, something like that.
I would welcome that. I would also point out that in Pennsylvania, they have the natural environment in their Constitution and their Bill of Rights. So I hope we can find a county in Ohio that's done something useful, because Pennsylvania law has a whole a whole stream of it that gives them a different framework in which to do it, unfortunately. And I was an 8-year resident of Pennsylvania as well, so, you know, I'm not saying this just from, you know, what I read in the papers. And so that there are some things, especially in this issue, where we find that we can't do in Ohio what you can do in Pennsylvania because we don't have the legal structure to do it. So I would just welcome some sort of organized input. We'll look around and we'll see if we can find a good county resolution and send it to you, but besides that, I'd welcome the opportunity. And it's not me.
Let me make this clear. Nobody that is supporting a reroute is going to be happy with anything less than the board passing a resolution.
Supporting the reroute.
Supporting the reroute.
I understand
So
that.
all we're going to do is open up more discourse, okay? You know.
Well, so it's not going to comment on the reroute. It's not going to say, we won't do the reroute, right? It should be neutral on it, right?
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I mean, it just won't mention
Least
it.
resistance.
Yeah,
You know what
good.
I'm saying?
But you're not receiving the blistering emails
Right.
that are now being stepped up, okay?
Well, we're
And-
getting some blistering emails of our own.
Right, but the idea is, when the board adopts a position, and I already heard what the position is. It's now we just need to journalize it, clarify it and journalize it. It's clearly not going to meet the needs of a few people out there that are going to continue to cycle. Sooner or later, you got to stop, do it, and move on.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
and we do have 3 divergent views of how we
Yes.
want to support
No,
this. so
I'll
to
be
do-
very interested to see what comes out of that. I just hope we can do it before it's set in stone in some way, and not just be sort of saying, you might want to think about this. It just, when we passed the, I mean, I've just been talking to people who were working on Patriot Act resistance, 10 years ago or something. And before we did that, I mean, people were putting things out, but we did run it by some, we had input from our police chief and others as we were doing that, what this meant. And this is an item of public interest, and I just hope it's not totally crafted and done without at least some opportunity to see it before it's done. Otherwise, you just have to put it out there and take a whole lot of brickbats after you've already done it.
Well,
You read the journal too much with the brickbats comments.
What's that?
You read the journal too much with the brickbats
Actually,
comments.
I don't read the journal at all. Are
Okay.
they talking
do
about
brickbats and bouquets.
They used to. They don't do that
They don't do that.
Oh, in
I read the
Oberlin-
newspaper, I don't read the paper, so.
In Oberlin, we've called a couple of our meetings, the equivalent is torches and pitchforks. That's what our flooding issues, some of the other current things we've been dealing with. But
What-
when the residents come in with torches and pitchforks, we know we're already too far gone.
Well, please understand that, we all take this responsibility seriously, and that, I've stressed time and time again in those emails that, safety is our number one concern. And the important thing is that this pipe is going to come through while the 3 of us are sitting here. If there's an incident with that pipe 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 40 years from now, they're going to look back and say, who were the 3 folks who, were there when this pipe came through? So we want to make sure that this is as safe as possible, and the path, as the commissioner said, the path of least resistance, impacting the least number of households possible.
And just the least resistance for the company is however cheaply they can put it through. So
Right.
I hope
Different definitions,
your
right.
definition of least resistance
Ours is different.
is that
Believe me,
public one,
ours
and I
is different.
appreciate that very much.
Well,
Thank you,
our
Commissioner.
resolution will go towards FERC. It's not to Spectra. There's a different
I
perspective
understand.
at that point.
I totally understand, and looking forward to it, and if we can be helpful, please let us know that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kalo, do you have a report?
I have lots of stuff. I have lots of stuff. Commissioners Association, Metropolitan Affairs Committee, we had a conference call last week going over the House budget that's been submitted to the Senate. Just some issues that we have been working on from committees I sit on. One of the new items is increased funding of the Healthy Lake Erie program by $500,000. As I said, there was legislation here that wasn't part of what I had worked on, but I did see it going through it. The House, they're striking changes to violations in relation to pipeline safety requirements, but I don't have the language as to what that addresses, but it came out of the House. Health and Human Services continue to provide TANF funding for the Ohio Boys and Girls Club. Very important, because our Boys and Girls Club with Mike Conover do a great job here. Let's see. The big piece, of course, is the House came through in regards to the additional $12 million for indigent funding, which will put us at a true 50%, save us another couple $100,000, $250,000 a year.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Commissioner, for your efforts on that. When I was in Columbus, you came down and actually testified on that. And I got to tell you, when you get in front of a House committee, boy, you better be able to hold your own. And I know a lot of my colleagues commented how well you made your presentation, how well informed you were.
Well, thank you.
So you fooled them. So.
Nothing was funner than the Turnpike testimony. Nothing was better than the Turnpike testimony, though.
You never invited back.
That's true. They actually, in regards to Terry Stone, who's here from our Veteran Services, provide $750,000 for the Ohio Legal Aid Fund to provide representation to economically disadvantaged veterans is in the House bill going to the Senate. Hope that holds through. One thing they did take away, our political contribution tax credit at the state level. We won't be able to take that off of our taxes anymore. And the next one, Jim, our Commissioners Association Board is supporting the House, the Ohio Aviation Group, to move sales tax from aviation fuel to make it a gas tax product to go into a restrictive account just for airport improvements, and the full board of the Commissioners Association supported that. So I don't know where that leaves us at.
Well, where is the fuel tax going now?
I would assume it goes into an account, is what most of our discussions were, but now it goes into a restrictive account.
Because I know fuel cost tax, I know where that goes. I haven't really thought about the aviation fuel. Is it going into the same road funds that?
No, we go into a restrictive aviation fund.
Well, that's what they're proposing.
Where's it going to now, though?
Right, it's going into most of the counties spoke that it went into their airport, but here it would go into a restrictive fund, along
Ours
with.
goes back to the airport now, right?
Right.
Well, are we talking about the state's tax or any local tax? What are we talking about?
They said the sales tax currently charged on aviation fuel.
Is there sales tax?
There is sales tax currently charged, which I wasn't aware of.
Not a gas tax, sales tax.
Sales tax. I will bring it out right here. Let's find the sales tax one. I said there's so much going on down in Columbus, and I'm keeping our heads up on it.
Well, let's put it this way. This is really great. It makes it look like they're doing something, they're doing absolutely nothing. Let me bring it out here before you make your comments, okay? Want to make sure we have this right. Sometimes you have to temper his enthusiasm.
You got Keith.
Well, when it comes to the people that are down there right now, I don't have any enthusiasm.
Well, down there now or past years.
Yeah, because the only thing lining our pockets in Lorain County is the lint. They've picked everything else out. The Commissioner, if it is a sales tax set aside, all they're doing is setting aside your current revenue and designating it. You could do that yourself right now.
Correct.
How many
I think
pages
that's why
of
there wasn't.
legislation have to do that?
I'm looking to find it here, Jim. I have multiple pages, but also what they had brought out, I'll look more into that, but also increases airport improvements up to $5.25 million per year for loans and grants to airports. And then again, requires ODOT to work to draft a legislation that moves the aviation fuel from the sales tax to the gas tax by June 30th, 2017, which then will go into a restrictive account. Maybe it's being used in other places in other counties. A lot of these issues, if you read through them, they are restrictive. They talk about may allow in a county of 375,000 people to 390,000 people to do X. Yeah. And a lot of these are singular issues, so this may be something that is, but it was supported. Also,
I think you and I need to have more conversation on that, Commissioner.
And they're formalizing granting counties the permission to enter into sales leaseback agreements, as we've talked about in the past. So it was a busy week keeping up and then giving comments back, but the indigent attorney stuff we're really happy, and hopefully it holds in the.
And no additional local government funds.
You were there, man. That's a
the
dirty
big part
word.
there, right.
Also, Matt and I attended the Community Alliance Transportation annual meeting. Very nice job. I'd like to thank Randy Lane from Nowaka attending and the full staff of Nowaka. And also go Cavs, 2-0, going to Boston on our way to the championship, right? End of my report.
I'd like to thank Pat Echo and the Township Association for the another great spring banquet that they put on. That was held in Camden Township last Thursday. And I know we had lots of folks there representing the county. As Ted pointed out, the Transportation Day, I thought with our Community Alliance, we're really lucky in this county to have the Lorain County Community Alliance. I don't think there are many other counties that are doing that. I remember telling my colleagues in Columbus that we actually have this alliance where city leaders and township leaders actually get together on a regular basis and talk about how they can work together. And folks were kind of blown away by that, but so we're really blessed to have this Lorain County Community Alliance. Was also asked to fill in for Dan Ramos, who's been very busy with the budget in Columbus and Finance Committee, and fill in for him at the Code Dinner in Elyria. So I think folks were ready to cancel their tickets when they found out I was going to be replacing Ramos as the speaker last Friday. Had a chance to attend the Veteran of the Year ceremony in Lorain at the IAV there. Daniel Gelati, congratulations to Daniel for being named the Lorain Vet of the Year. Apparently he served in Korea, Germany, and Vietnam. On Sunday, had the opportunity to attend the Recognition of Excellence Banquet, which is put on by Avon Lake High School, and it is really an amazing event. They generally get close to 400 people for that, students and parents. They recognized 151 students for their academic achievement. And the component that's really neat about this dinner is they also have the students submit, if they wish to, a short statement about a teacher that had a real positive impact on them during their education at the Avon Lake schools. And 60 educators were recommended or recognized for that. The students were talking about the various schools that they were going to, and I found it interesting that one of the students said that she was going to study molecular genetics. And I thought, page 1 of that textbook, I'd already be lost. You know, that's amazing how things have changed since those of us up here went to high school, right? These new fields that are out there. So, but a great turnout for that, and always a great event. I kept looking at the students as they were being recognized and thinking, wow, did I really look that young when I was a senior in high school? It's amazing how the years go by, but it was a productive week.
Commissioners will present a proclamation for Workers' Memorial Day next Tuesday, April 28th, noon, Elyria Square, in 5 PM Lorain City Hall. Next Tuesday, April 28th at 11, we'll be our investment advisory meeting. Work correspondence?
I move the reading be waived.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Public comment?
Anybody else wishing to? Terry, come on up. Introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Terry Stone, Executive Director, Lorain County Veterans Service Commission. Just wanted to thank the commissioners for allowing me just a couple minutes. I just wanted to reiterate at our meeting we had yesterday with our Veterans Service Commissioners that we were going to come and still actively request that we start getting some general dialogue going between our commission and the county commissioners on our building location. We're still very, excited about wanting to do that and sit down and work together and figure out what we're going to do as far as the relocation of the office. And I just wanted to bring that forth and offer our help anytime that you're able to meet. We're more than willing to meet with you guys. And then also I gave Teresa, we opened our bids last Friday for transportation contract, and next week on your agenda, I think Teresa will have a resolution that we passed yesterday on who we want to award the contract to. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I move that we go into executive session as outlined by the county administrator.
Oh, second.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
This has been a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda for a printable copy of the agenda.
doing drugs.
It's easy to start, and it's painful to stop.
Prescription drugs are prescription for a reason. If you take too many of a prescription narcotic, you die.
Chelsea was very well liked by her friends and by her teachers.
Ronnie was going down to Tennessee State to be the next player to come out of Tennessee State.
Joey was extremely popular, just surrounded by friends.
Mark was an athletic, fit-looking kid.
Aaron enjoyed talking and debating with any and all people.
The prescription pain pill problem is a huge epidemic.
This is an epidemic.
This is an epidemic that is infiltrated our young people.
We never had a conversation with Joey about prescription drugs because we truly had no idea that there was any kind of recreational use going on.
How many guys know it's not used by anybody?
The first time I started doing painkillers was when I was 17.
I would steal pills from my friend's mom. Her stepmom had a script for Vicodin. That was like heaven. I went in her room and stole Vicodin every day.
He would ask to use the bathroom in other people's homes, and he'd go in there and go in their medicine cabinets and steal prescription drugs.
These medications are available everywhere in every socioeconomic environment.
Ronnie was the starting halfback, one of our best players. He got several scholarship offers.
Ronnie was very popular in the neighborhood.
Ronnie was a neat freak, clean freak, always had his hair braided. When he got into the pill use, his mood changed. He changed, like, was that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?
Ronnie's appearance really deteriorated, and it was really unlike him.
I said, "Are you doing drugs?" And my son looked at me with these eyes of, "How could you even think of that, Mom?"
I was walking up to football practice. My coach was walking towards me. He just had this crazy look on his face. He goes, "You think they might have found your brother?" And I was like, to me, I was like goofing. I was like, I didn't know he went missing. So I was like making like goofing off. And he was like, "No, Justin, seriously, they might have found his body." And I was like, "Wait a minute." I was "Whoa, what?" He's like, "Yeah, they discovered a body in an apartment in Telford."
I never thought my son would take prescription drugs without a prescription.
Parents often trip themselves up by asking a simple question. Are you using drugs? No. One has to be able to say, I'm seeing some signs here that concern me.
He was a little bit more argumentative. We thought that was maybe hormones.
The person has what we call pinpoint pupils. Literally, the pupils look like a pinpoint.
She slept odd hours.
We didn't know why he was sleeping so late.
If I wasn't able to get high, then I didn't want to get out of bed because, the physical withdrawals.
We were missing tinfoil from the kitchen, missing spoons.
We'd find the pens that were cut in half.
Straws.
There were a lot of charges coming on the credit cards.
We thought that there was somebody stealing money out of our account.
That's probably a pretty good clue there's something going on. Joey was pretty upset with his roommates. They were spending all their money on medication. Had I known that the medications that they were taking were so dangerous, I would have told them, you're not even going back to that place.
If you feel something's going on, you got to investigate.
I thought it was just a phase. We partied when we were in high school, and it's just sort of a phase you go through as you grow, experience life, and you grow out of it. And I thought he was on that track.
Joey had been found and he was unconscious.
He had all these medications that he had just received from this doctor. More than likely, he crushed and snorted it. We're just being completely hit blindly by, a situation we had absolutely no understanding of and no notice of. And in the meantime, my husband's in the house. I'm out front in the front of the house, just, wondering what we're dealing with here. And so finally, Joe just came out and said he's gone.
I was downstairs getting ready for work, and Cookie told me she couldn't get Mark up. Mark was powerful and had the nickname in some circles of Tank. I reminded her that what she had to do was get a cup of water and splash him with it and stay out of his way. And she told me it was different. We found a clear plastic bag of loose pills. I'm not sure if he even thought he was doing drugs, and I know that sounds crazy, but it's not like it was heroin or cocaine. We followed the ambulance to the hospital. A few minutes later, someone came in and told us that Mark was dead. We never thought that was a possibility.
I had no idea that kids were abusing medicine.
I came home one night, saw the basement light on, and went up to the window, and my son was crushing and snorting the pills.
We would find pills in the shoes, in the jackets that are hanging in the closet, in the pockets.
I found some pills hidden under his cushion.
They were in his socks. I never checked my kid's socks.
He took the light switch plate off and put them in there.
Look everywhere. Is it an invasion? No. You're doing the right thing as a parent.
I would question Chelsea, and she would always assure me that everything is fine and nothing's wrong.
Kids don't want to get in trouble, so they're going to tell you exactly what you want to hear.
There was always something down deep inside that said to me, something's wrong. You doubt yourself because you wonder if you're making a bigger deal out of something.
You know, maybe deep down my parents knew that I was high.
You can't always believe your child. Their lies get bigger when they're trying to hide substance abuse.
I knew her inside and out, and I remember Chelsea as the little girl that she used to be.
I looked at him and I only saw the most beautiful son in the world.
It was very difficult to think that she would be lying to me, which she was. She was out using and abusing prescription drugs.
Long-acting agents like OxyContin are meant to be delivered in the body over a period of hours, if not a day. If they're chewed, crushed, and snorted, you get the entire dose at one blast, and if the body's not ready to accommodate that, you will stop breathing.
We needed to call the police. But what are their neighbors going to think?
Put all of that aside and focus on what's important, as difficult as it may be.
Families can't get too caught up in the idea that, there may be an arrest, charge of my son or daughter, they could be in jail, they could be in the morgue.
The law saved my life. If my mom hadn't called the cops on me, I don't know where I would be right now.
It was the most difficult thing to do, to call the police on your own child. It was horrible. I have gone from putting importance on things like what college are you going to get into, to just celebrating the fact that she's alive today. She's doing very well. She's clean and sober. She's productive. She's sweet. And I have her back, and I'm thankful. And it's wonderful.
Aaron had spent the night at a friend's, and they found him blue and non-responsive. They took him to a local hospital.
He was using Vicodin, which we found out through his toxicology, what was in his blood system.
I witnessed him have 2 heart attacks in ICU. He had staph, he had pneumonia, he went through seizures. The doctor was explaining to us that he was going to die. We held his hands on each side, and we started crying, and he just laid there.
People use the medications in an abusive way, not knowing what the full consequences are, and somebody ends up here.
Within 24 hours, Aaron had opened his eyes.
Parents are the first line of defense in terms of prescription drug abuse.
You gotta sit your kids down. You just gotta tell them about the severity of the problem.
There's a number of steps that you can take.
Educate your child and yourself very early.
Anybody who feels that this can't happen to my child,
It could happen to your kid.
make sure that you don't have excess pills in your home.
Keep your medication locked up because you're never going to notice if something's gone.
What my mom does is she has these take-home pee tests that I gotta take. I want to keep my mom proud of me, and I don't want to let her down.
You need to have the conversation with them about drug and substance abuse, and you need to include prescription drugs and guide them So they're able to get through their high school years and into college and through their college years drug-free.
Have this conversation before it's too late to have this conversation.
How about a little trash talk about Lorain County Solid Waste Collection Center in Elyria? The Collection Center makes it easy for Lorain County residents with ID to get rid of stuff you don't want going into a landfill. Stuff like hazardous waste, acids, household bleach, oven cleaners, antifreeze, paint, herbicides. Take it to the Collection Center. It's a drive-through, so it's easy to get rid of scrap tires, even if they're on the rims. The Collection Center also takes e-scrap like computers and monitors, circuit boards, microwave ovens, smoke detectors, even household TVs up to 27 inches. No console models, fluorescent lights and ballasts, reference materials and books, fire extinguishers, all kinds of stuff. Drive through, drop off. Just don't bring curbside recyclables, explosives, medical waste, radioactive materials. For what's accepted and not accepted, visit loraincounty.us/solid waste. The Collection Center near Big Lots at 540 South Abbey Road in Elyria is a service of the Lorain County Solid Waste District, the Department of the Lorain County Commissioners.
Carpooling, a great way to save on fuel, tolls, and parking. Serving 13 counties, secure and safe Ohio rideshare makes it easy to connect with carpool partners safely. You control information shared. Discuss your destinations and needs through our safe site. Carpooling reduces pollution and traffic congestion, while it lowers stress and gives riders time to read, work, sleep, socialize. 1-800-825-RIDE or register online at ohiorideshare.com. Point, click, ride.